The only way that you're going to be able to get clients and keep clients for real estate photography is by covering a few basic things that I want to talk about and show in this video. Now, as you were searching YouTube for something about getting real estate gigs or doing real estate photography, you no doubt came across a good amount of clickbait and people making promises that you could get rich doing real estate photography and their success stories and how it's so easy to do. But as you probably realized already, that's a lot of BS. It is just clickbait. I've been doing this a long time. As you know, if you've been watching my channel, I've shot thousands of homes. I've worked with hundreds of clients. I've been doing this for a long time. I know what works. I know what doesn't work. And that's why I'm going to recover some of the basics here, because one of the things that is so often overlooked, and I really want to stress in this video, is how to get clients by understanding the clients, by understanding, though, the type of real estate photography you want to do, because it's not one size fits all. Real estate photography does vary. There's a few different genres of real estate photography, a few different styles, and it will dictate then what you should really do going forward as a path. If you don't know this basic first, then you're going to be on the wrong path and you're going to have problems getting clients. So let's start with those basics. So there are three types of real estate photography, and there's different clients. I'm going to show it here on what I call the client radar. You might have seen stuff similar to this, where we're going to weigh four different things: quantity, longevity in your career, quality of the pictures that you're going to be taking, and the profit of what you're doing. The quantity is the number of shoots. So let's take a look at the first one. This is the most common that you've probably seen. Go out to Zillow, you'll see tons of this stuff. It's just your basic HDR. As you can see here, it's a high quantity of shoots. Why? Because, well, the profit margin tends to be low, and there's reasons to that, which I'll get to in just a second. But the quality it's okay. It's not bad for a lot of real estate listings, but it really doesn't meet the mark for when you get into luxury and higher end clients, which I'll get to here shortly. But the biggest thing is your longevity. Because you're doing just standard everyday HDR work, well, anybody can do this, so you really don't have any buy-in. You don't have any type of guarantee that someone's going to just keep using you. You have really low client retention. Typically, too, this is just done for the listing market. You really don't have any other clients besides just real estate agents, and even then it will be limited. It also, the nice thing and what appeals to a lot of people doing this is that there's less time on site, but there tends to be a lot more time in editing. And that's what also starts cutting into your profit, because a lot of people, a lot of photographers find it so difficult to do editing to get a decent enough quality out of this style that they tend to outsource it. And sure, outsourcing might not cost a lot. There's a lot of risks associated with that, but it's still something that cuts into your profit margin, hence the high quantity of shoots that you need to make an income out of that. So not something I recommend. This is where you would doing just a standard bracketing, no lights involved, and it doesn't work well in all cases. But let's move on to the second type. And this is the second of third types that I want to discuss and talk about here. And this is the actual pro market. So this is professional real estate photography. And sure, there's HDR photographers that consider themselves pro. I would debate that, because here you're in a different market. You're, for one, doing a very high quality image. And you can see from these examples, this is what I'm talking about. So when you're getting nice clear views to the outside, you've got really good accurate colors. Things are very sharp. It just looks very professional. So this can be used for the listing market, and I have a lot of agents that use photos that I take for them for the listing market, but it also gets you into luxury markets and other markets as well, including for builders, remodel companies, businesses, and because of that, you have a high retention with clients, and that's why longevity is high. It's extremely high because you're working not with onesie twosie clients that have a short shelf life in their career, which happens with a lot of real estate agents. You've got long-term real estate agents and then companies, builders, and whatnot, other businesses that will keep hiring you. And because of that, it is a skilled trade. So you're working towards gaining a skill. It is a little bit more difficult to do, but you can learn this, how to do this, and you will get repeatable results, and you don't have to take on as many shoots. Your quantity can be lower for a higher profit margin. And as I mentioned, this is what I do. And so this is what I've talked about here on my YouTube channel, for instance, using Flambient, incorporating Flash. And also, if you're not familiar with it, I've got online courses that teach not just how to take the pictures, but also edit those. I've got best-selling books on real estate photography as well, and I've got links to all that down in the description for this video. One of the things that the HDR photographers will say is that this type of photography, doing the pro stuff, does take a little bit longer. True, but the editing is so much easier that you don't have to outsource it. Using the incorporation of Flash and Flambient, you by nature get a better quality picture, you get better colors, it does become easier. You get clear views to the outside just naturally. So by taking less time to edit, and maybe a little bit more time on site, yes, you can take on fewer jobs, you can charge more also, you gain higher profit, but the biggest thing for me is I want job security, so I've got this longevity, and I got into photography to make good photos and to edit good photos, so yes, I recommend high quality. So if you're after high quality, you're after high longevity, decent profit, and not running around to a million houses to try to make a buck, then you really should take a look at the pro real estate photography market. And this is a little bit different than just blasting what we call wish and list agents, or just, here today, gone tomorrow agents, which, as you know from other videos, I've had about 87% of real estate agents. If you're working just for the listing market, those agents probably won't last even 2 years statistically. Anyways, let's take a look at the third type, and this is an interesting one. It's architecture photography, and this overlaps a little bit with the pro market. So I do some architecture photography as well as what you might consider just pro high-end for listing and builders and whatnot. Architecture photography does take a long time to do. You do very few shoots, but you charge a lot for it. This is when you're into charging by the hour for these jobs. Now, the quality is extremely high because you've got all the time in the world to make the best photos for a client. So this, though, limits the type of clients that you would attract, because you're looking at really just companies. You're looking at builders, remodel companies, and other businesses that really want just a low quantity of photos, which also low quantity of shoots as well, but they want something with extremely high quality. They'll be very demanding clients to do that. And this uses an incorporation of a number of techniques. Yes, Flambient is one of them. And then of course, mixing in different ambient, it's a whole other genre. So this, though, the problem though with this, and why I don't do as much of it, and I really don't try to market myself as just an architecture photographer, but as a pro, is that the longevity is decreasing. So it used to be that architecture photography was high in demand because of the quality, but now with digital cameras and the incorporation of light with Flambient, when you get into just doing pro work with Flambient, what I teach in my courses and I talk about in my books, you can do architecture photography. A lot of people won't notice the difference, and you have a lot more longevity because this is what's high in demand compared to doing architecture photography. As an example, if I were to go out and for a business, I might charge $1,000 to go out for a morning and be there with their design team, their conceptual people to come up with the photos that they want to have, and then I might charge some licensing also for the photos after that. But there's very few people, very few builders and remodel companies and businesses that really want to pay that expense when they have someone else that can compete with a lower cost and also be quicker by using some of these techniques. Now, on the other hand, when we go back to type 1, which is your basic HDR photographer, the quality is not going to be there. It would be very difficult to get architecture and pro quality out of these basic HDR images. And that's why companies, they may unknowingly hire a basic HDR photographer and then not be pleased with the photos. And I've had that quite a bit where I've been hired and they say, oh my gosh, you would not believe what we just came across with the last photographer. And then they notice, yeah, I break out lights, I'm doing stuff a lot different. It's a different market. That's because, once again, type 1, the basic HDR photographer, this is listing market. So when you're seeing a lot of clickbait out there on the get rich quick schemes with real estate photography and how it doesn't take much work, this is what you're looking at. You're looking at a short-term career with a constant churn in clients just to stay alive, okay quality, but your profit will be cut into because you have to do a high quantity and you'll also be outsourcing probably most of your work, although you don't have to. And also in my editing course, I show how to do high-end HDR if you want to go that route. But this is, though, the style that I recommend. This gets you then not necessarily the most clients, but it gets you the highest paying clients. And that's what you want. I don't want to be running around to 10 houses a day. I would rather just go to maybe 2 houses a day and make more money. And that's where this comes in. But this is the goal that I would suggest starting with. If you can work toward pro, you can work toward architecture photography. And even though the longevity has been decreasing with this and there's fewer architecture photographers out there, it doesn't mean architecture photography is going away. All that means is it's going to change a little bit, so it uses more incorporation of some of the other techniques used in like the pro area of using flambient, and also some of the price will change because of that, but your profit will probably still stay very high just with these small changes. But if you don't know who you're targeting, then how are you going to get an architecture gig? How are you going to get a pro gig compared to just a standard basic listing where somebody doesn't necessarily care as much about quality? So this is where you need to do a little homework and you need to seek out your clients first, and also think to yourself, what style of photography do you want to do? No matter what you choose, if you're after just the money to say, oh, I want to make this much profit or this much profit or this much profit, that's not going to get you anything. You have to love what you're doing. It has to show in your work. If you don't really care about what you're doing, your quality is going to suffer. And I mean, sure, there's the technical aspect here of HDR and some of the quality, but some of that also is left to 2 things. One, the mercy of your outsourced editor, which because of the high quantity of shoots you have to do to make a living, you probably have to outsource. But the other is, are you really loving what you're doing? Probably not. Now I know there's HDR photographers, love their job, that's fine. But compared to doing something of extreme high quality, of having something that just looks beautiful, let me ask you this, as for an example, do you love doing landscape photography? Do you love other types of photography? And for those pictures, do you want your pictures to look the best? Same goes for any type of real estate photography that you do, or any other genre of photography. If you don't like making quality images, then your work will suffer overall as a career. You gotta love what you do. Now with these 3 styles, you might think that it's a progression, but it's not. If you start out with just doing simple, standard HDR photography, you're gonna have a hard time excelling because you're going to have this first impression out of the gate that that is the type of photographer that you are. Now, there's nothing wrong with trying all genres of photography, but once you market yourself, you brand yourself, you become labeled as such. The other big thing to point out is that if you want to get clients, the best way is just simply to show that you are better than the competition. You need to show potential clients a reason to hire you. And they're not going to just hire you for cost. If that's what you're going for and you're competing against cost with everybody else, it's unsustainable and you're attracting the wrong client. Sure, cost is going to be a factor. You don't want to be charging $10,000 for a shoot, but you don't want to be charging $10 for a shoot either. So there's a happy medium. But once you are doing pro level photography, as I've talked about here, you will be able to charge more. So what you need to do is, 1, practice. You need to show that you are the best. You can do the best. You need to slowly ramp up. You don't want to blast a whole bunch of emails out there, hit up social media, I'm a real estate photographer, hire me. No, you want to be able to get 1 client at first, maybe 2, slowly work with them so that you can build the skill set that you need, and also someone who's going to be very forgiving for the mistakes that you will make. Once you do that, it will be exponential growth once you can prove that you can do good work, because 1, that person who hired you for just these few shoots that you're going to start out with, they'll be able to refer you, and they're always networked. All the real estate agents are, builders are, all that, they are networked. The other thing that you'll see, and this is very unique to real estate photography, is if you're shooting for the listing market, every one of your shoots will be seen by every realtor in the area. And that's because the MLS service, the multiple listing service, when the new listing comes out, every agent, usually most every agent, will want to see every new listing to see if a potential buyer of theirs could be interested in it. If your pictures stand out, they'll be asking the listing agent, who does your photos? Boom, instant referral. So this is how the exponential growth works. If you constantly have to market yourself, you've got a problem. And that's the big clickbait thing that's out there, is that when you see, and you're Googling real estate photographers, you see those ads, you'll see them year over year over year, because they have a high turn rate. They have a big churn because they can't retain clients. So they need to keep getting clients. But if you want long-term clients, guaranteed work, then follow these steps. It's very simple. Start out slow, work to perfection, get as good as you can, and the work will follow.